All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. If you are joining us, say hi in the chat. Let us know if you have heard about this awesome challenge or not. This is, of course, the Diverse Baseline Reading Challenge, what we're celebrating today. It's an annual challenge, but don't let that scare you if you're just finding it in September when we're filming this, that's okay. Or maybe you're watching this later in the future and it's December. It can still give you some really great ideas of what to read. But we are going to have some creators hopping in and out of the stream today. We'll try to manage the flow so it's not like too chaotic. But as people join, I am going to make them introduce themselves. So you'll get a chance, everyone, to say hello as you join in. And how today's structure is kind of going to work is we'll probably read about like 40 to 50 minutes each hour. And then that last 10 minutes of the hour, we will chat, or maybe the first 10 minutes, depending, I guess, is how this is going. And we'll chat. We'll talk about the books that we've been loving that kind of go along with the challenge. We'll talk about the challenge. We'll just talk about being like bookworms in the book community and just have fun. You guys can ask us questions in the chat too. But for anyone who's finding me for the first time, perhaps, I am Hannah. I used to be called the Paperback Bruncher on all channels for like 4 years. So if I look familiar and you're like, wait, I don't recognize the name, that might be it. I decided I am over a moniker. I'd rather have people just like know me for my own name. So I ditched that. I don't know if that was a good decision or not for the algorithm, but it feels good in my heart of hearts. So I'm super excited about that. And also, my new last name is like inherently bookish. It's pronounced lore, which is like cool as fuck. So I'm very down for that. Anyways, I'm gonna pass the mic to some new friends of mine and one returning friend who you'll recognize in a second here. I'm going to kick it to Brittany first, who is one of the hosts of the challenge. So this is once again the Diverse Baseline Reading Challenge, and all of the like descriptors, everything you need to know is linked down below. So finding it on StoryGraph, how it works, but sometimes it's just like nice to have someone tell you that, face to face on YouTube. So Brittany's going to kind of give us an overview of the challenge, and then she's going to tell you where she posts about books and kind of what she likes to read. All right, take it away, Brittany, and then we'll go Kate, and then we'll go Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. So I'm Brittany. I'm at bookish.millennial on Instagram, and I am the co-creator of the Diverse Baseline Challenge, which we started this year in January. Me and Margarita, I think their handle is author Margarita Ciala, but I'll write it in the chat because that's not something that you have to memorize. So we created this back in January. We started with 3 prompts per month of different genres, different age groups, just to get people into that like baseline of reading of like, like what voices might I be missing in my reading? Like a lot of us, like I tend to veer towards romance or fantasy. And this has been fun for me to really diversify the genres, especially. And we wanted to focus on BIPOC authors. So, because, like I think a lot of our corner of the internet is a lot of us do value diverse reading, but I think like on a mass scale, like if you walk in a Target, you just like don't see that on the shelves, right? So we wanted to do something to really like uplift BIPOC authors, especially in the bookish space. So, because I know that a lot of like non-bookish accounts follow us. So that was the goal of our challenge is 3 books per month, totaling hopefully around 36 books at the end of the year. But again, like Hannah said, if you're just finding this challenge right now, please don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to read 36 books by December. Please don't feel pressured for that. I was talking with everyone before we started on the live about how we want to make sure that you join the challenge as accessibly as feels good to you. So even if you're not following along to a T, if it's just something that helps guide your reading and guide you into thinking like, oh, I haven't read poetry lately, or I don't really read literary fiction. It's just something for you to like try, right? So that was kind of our thinking with the challenge. I think I told you I'm more of like a romance and fantasy reader, but again, with this challenge, I've been really trying to like veer out and like challenge myself. Sorry, I'm very corny. So I'm going to kick it over to Kate.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate. Me and my best friend Britt are at BFF Book Club. We are mostly on Instagram. We also have a TikTok, but mostly Instagram is where you're going to find us. And we are a virtual book club. So we pick a new book each month and we ask our friends to read it with us. And then we have a bunch of questions that we ask all of our followers. And then we take that input from our followers and we put it into a podcast. So we are an Instagram and a podcast, and we just love to read and chat about a new book each month. So that's been really fun. I have been participating in the Diverse Baseline Reading Challenge for the year, and I think one book behind. So I need to catch up from one book in August, and then I have one more to read for September to be all caught up. But I have been so enjoying this challenge, and I mostly read fantasy and romance. So it's been really just a great way to incorporate more BIPOC authors into the genres that I already read, and just finding authors within those genres. But then also, like Brittany was saying, stepping outside of genres, like reading memoirs, which I don't usually read, or a novella, which I don't usually pick up, has also been a great kind of consequence of doing the challenge as well. So yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I started YouTube probably for real, like 5 years ago at this point, but I know it's just kind of crazy. But I think I started taking it seriously like maybe like a year ago. Sorry, my dog is trying to play right now. Apologies. What was I gonna say? Mostly I'm on Instagram for the most part, but I love to yap, and Instagram doesn't let you do that for too long. So tend to make YouTube videos talk about that. I also mainly read romance, but have been trying to expand my genres this year because prior to the pandemic, I was reading, well, kind of everything, fantasy, thrillers, little horror here and there. So I've been trying to like sprinkle those back in between all of my romance reading. And I actually found out about the Diverse Baseline Reading Challenge from Hannah inviting me to this. So I'm super excited to look through all the challenges. I just added it to Storygraph so I can kind of like peek through and see what I've read this year that I can like add to prompts already. And I already had some things next to me that I wanted to get through maybe this month, if not the rest of the year. And so I'm seeing how this can apply to the different challenges. So I'm excited.
I really have to like commend you guys, the hosts, and whoever maybe you consulted with, if it wasn't just you guys, but the like prompts for these challenges are really like all over the place in the best way. I was like struggling to find some of like the books for the various prompts that you gave. I'm going to actually just like share my screen because I think a lot of us are visual learners, and I have it pulled up for at least September. So let me show that real quick. All right, here we go. So for each month, as Brittany mentioned, there are 3 prompts. These are the 3 that I chose. But I want to call attention to specifically prompt C, a picture or children's book by a BIPOC author. I don't think this is like something I would have ever added to my reading, but it's also so easy to do and kind of refreshing, especially for like a lot of us readers who get really bogged down by having certain number goals or, you know, needing to check all of these boxes. So that one, for example, I just went through like what was available in my libraries app too. So it was really nice because I didn't have to go buy a book. I'm getting out of my comfort zone, and a lot of people like recommend that book and say it's super cute. But I'm just super hyped that like there's so much different styles of genres, but also I don't know, it's just like all over the place, but it's chaotic in like a very good way. But I just wanted to show
That's really nice to hear. And actually, it's so funny because I just went to the library and I was like, oh, I'm going to get all these random picture books. And a lot of my friends have littles, they have like toddlers. So I was thinking, oh, I'm going to read to them, but also this is part of my challenge. And it's, like you said, it's a fun way to feel accomplished. You're like, oh, good, I can read this in one sitting. And if you're like in a slump, it's actually, and it's so cool because I feel like they're so powerful, these little picture books too. And I never realized that, you know, because last time I read them was when I was a kid. But they have such fun messages too. So it's really like, it is refreshing. It's like a good, especially if you're in a reading slump, I feel like it's really helpful to be like, oh, I just finished a book. So yeah.
You brought up like a good point of like even your friends having littles. Like I think so many of us are in this age where a lot of us are like settling down and maybe gonna have kids, maybe not. But a lot of people surrounding us have kids. And I've seen like the really cool like baby shower trend of like don't bring a book, just or don't bring a gift, bring a book. And I think that's super cute. But I
did
never
that for my baby shower.
see, of course you did. And I just think it's so cute. But like I don't know what book to bring. So like this is kind of like a fun little challenge for yourself. You're like, all right, I want to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to go to the library, check out 5 kids books, and my favorite one is the one that I'm going to gift to my friends in the future. Like that's so cute. I'm just like gushing now. All right, so before we get started, we'll start in like maybe 2 minutes with our reading, but I want to discuss what we're going to be reading today. So I can kick it off with this one, and then we can do like Kate, Rebecca, Brittany, just kind of like a little zigzag. Um, I am extremely behind on my book club, which is so stressful being like a host and being like behind on your own book club and your own book club timing. But I have to like sometimes like take a breather and remember I've been a host of this book club since 2018. So it's evolved a lot. Like it was in person. We used to meet like at brunch restaurants and at bookstores, and then it went virtual. And I feel like with all of the platform changes too, like the audience changes a lot. So I'm still like figuring out what that works. And I feel like I put like too much pressure on myself. But this summer I was like, all right, we're going to like take a pause in the sense that I'm not going to read the books. I'm not going to host the Zoom that month, but we're going to do like a backlog catch up in the fall. So that's kind of like where we're at right now. So technically most of my book club already read this over the summer and I am reading it now. So this is Take My Hand. And I think Brittany said you already read this and it was super good too, right? Okay. So I'm super excited. I honestly can't tell you anything about it because I don't like to read a synopsis. I just see people I trust recommend books or like, go off of vibes. Thankfully, I don't have to like look up content warnings for myself usually, so I can skate by on that. But if I do hear some like triggering things about a book, I know usually to try avoid certain ones. But this one I've heard nothing but great things about. I will give you an update later on, a little bit more about what it's about once I get in a little bit. I'll keep it spoiler free later. But I am very excited. And once Brittany told me that she loved it too, I got like way more to start it. And I was like, all right, ready to abandon the rest of the TBR and like actually start it. So this is what I will be reading today, and I'm starting like at the very beginning, very fresh, which is fun for a reading sprint because then you know exactly how many pages you read. And scene. Kate, you go.
Okay, I am reading The Oleander Sword, which is the second book in the Burning Kingdoms trilogy. So the first book is Jasmine Throne. Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, Jasmine Throne. This is like inspired by the epics of India, and it's a sapphic political fantasy. So the first book was awesome. I was so into it, and just a lot of morally gray characters. And there's a magic system, and the magic is kind of like nature based, like plant forest kind of magic going on, which I love. So yeah, super excited to get into this one, the second one in the series.
Okay, so I don't know what I'm reading. I have this little stack next to me, a book that I have been meaning to get through since, I don't know, May. So I have Do You Take This Man by Denise Williams. She wrote my absolute favorite romance novel was How to Fail at Flirting. No. Yes, she wrote that one, but that's not actually, I literally just lost the name of the one I was thinking of. It's the one after that. It's like they meet on a like fitness app, and he's the CEO, and he like is like really bored of doing CEO things. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, I absolutely loved it, was obsessed with it, and so then I grabbed this and I was like, I need to read this. And then in a very different direction is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a I don't know if it's autofiction or if it's just a straight up memoir, but it's told in these vignettes of her dealing with a abusive relationship. And it is what's the word I'm looking for? Latin Heritage Month this month. So from the 15th to the 15th. So I wanted to get that in. And then I have Wishful Thinking by Celestine Martin, which I tried to read last year and actually softy enough this. And not because I wasn't enjoying it. I just like wasn't in the mood for like a super cute, cozy romance, but I think I am. And then I have no idea what Like Happiness is about. Like Hannah, I try to avoid synopsis sometimes. And I did not look this one up because I know it's kind of like mystery thrillery. So I think what I'm going to do is read a chapter from each of them and then just see what the vibes are and just figure it out.
I can tell like you have YouTube experience because that is so chaotic, and I feel like YouTube is always the most chaotic. Where we're like,
I don't know what I'm reading, but we're gonna find out together.
Is it? I looked it up. Is it The Fastest Way to Fall? The one you were talking about?
Okay, so it was The Fastest Way to Fall.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. How to Fail at Flirting's her debut, which was very good. But that one had some more like heavier themes to it, and then The Fastest Way to Fall that's the one.
The one that you have there, the pink cover, do you take this one? Yes.
Huh.
I bought that book and another one that had like a wedding cover just like a couple of weeks ago when we did our courthouse wedding. I told Omar like the day before, I was like, we're just going to pick out 2 books in the romance section that have any sort of wedding like vibes, and I'm going to bring them to the courthouse. And he was like, okay. And so they're like in the background of like random.
I love that.
I haven't read it yet though. So like, what the hell?
Maybe this will be the winner. I'll let you know.
Please tell me it's good or I might cry because it's like in these pictures now.
I was going to say, we need a full report. We need a review of each chapter that you read. Tell us everything.
I'll do it.
Or rank them, please. All right, Brittany, what are you reading?
I do want to say I'm sorry for my facial expressions during the entire time you were explaining each of the books, because I've read each of your 4 books. I hope you like whichever one you choose, because I really liked all of them.
Heck yeah. Okay, great.
I'm in the middle of Fate of the Sun King. I don't know if you can see this, by Nisha J. Tully. It's the 3rd book in this Romantasy series. The first one is called, oh gosh, what's the first one called? I'll find it and then I'll put it in the chat. But I really liked it. The first one begins with a line of, can I swear on here? Yes? Okay. Okay. The first one begins with a line that says, "That bitch stole my soap." And when I read that, I was cracking up. I was like, you know what, girlfriend? Sold. I get it. That's a no-no. It's just hilarious. It's steamy. It is the main character, Lore. She has this like sort of mysterious background. She's thrown into these trials to become the wife, like the future wife and queen of this future king in this sort of court system. And it just kind of goes off the rails from there. It's really wild, but it's so much fun and it's so goofy at the same time. So I really am loving it. And it's like classic, don't fall for the first love interest, you know? So you're like, okay, I'm going to wait for the second book to see who is actually the love of your life. So it's been a lot of fun. And I really like Nisha J. Tully's, like, just her goofy, like, unserious writing style. So I highly recommend it if you like romantasy, and it seems like we're romantasy girlies here. So, yeah.
Brittany, did those books have dragons? Or no? This is a
No.
question, but okay. There's like 2 series that I like get confused because the cover styles are super similar.
The cover style, okay, yes. This cover style, like, if there's kind of like
very trendy.
Yes, it's like the font, and then there's the crown and roses around it. Yeah, I mean, this could be
one that has dragons and one that doesn't, but I like want to read both of these series. So like my brain hasn't differentiated them yet. But when I was in Germany, I found they made like these special editions of the dragon ones where the sprayed edges were like a dragon's face when you put them all together. And I've never regretted not buying books more in my entire life, because like I could just have a dragon sitting here right now, and I don't speak German, but like I don't care. But no, I think I've seen those like all over. I feel like they really blew up this summer, or maybe like did one recently come out in the series or something?
This one just came out, I think, like within the past maybe month or so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like there's like always like a moment where you like start seeing a series everywhere and you're like, why now? But that would explain it. That's very logical. All right, so we are going to read until the hour mark. So that is 7 o'clock for me in the Pacific time zone. If any new friends join during that time, you'll see them pop on camera and join us in these little lovely boxes here. And then once we start chatting at the hour mark, I'll make them introduce themselves and share what they're reading. But just in case you're wondering if anyone joins in, and then if anyone here needs to go, just feel free to like give a wave and peace out. It's real chill. But that's how it's going to go. I am going to share my screen yet again. I swear I can do this. I did also figure out today that we can do lo-fi, which is cute. So I'll put lo-fi on, and if you just don't want sound, just mute us because you'll still see the timer. But this is a fun little game, so I can set this timer here for, let's reset it for technically 39 minutes. And you get to pick a number here. So pick any number 1 through 20. Tell us in the chat what number pumpkin you're picking. Wow, that's a tongue twister. And whichever pumpkin, like technically like one will grow to like its full, I don't know, whatever pumpkin is the biggest wins. I don't know why I'm trying to explain it more complicated than that, but that's how it's going to work. And I will give us some music and we'll get started. I'm going to pick, by the way, pumpkin 5. I'll put it in the chat too. I didn't know it was going to do that. Did any of us pick, let's see, 4, 13, or 14? I don't think so. There's too many options. I tried to see if I could like put it down to 1 to 4, but not for this one. But there's a couple other pumpkin ones. That's cute. We'll try another one next time. All right. Welcome back. I was going to say it's like the land of the living, and I was like, you're getting too into this Halloween. Like, relax. I'm just like so ready for spooky season. All right, so I figured we can start with how we all did on the sprints and any, spoiler-ish free comments about the books that we're reading. And then I have a question for each of you that I came up with. So we'll start there. I read 28 pages of Take My Hand, and I can tell you now a little bit about what it's about now that I know. But I will say I ended up having to read the back of the book because I was super confused what was happening. There is 2 timelines, which will always get me a little lost in the beginning of a book. That's not something like my brain does well with, but I do enjoy it when it's done well. So I know it's like worth the struggle. But this one's interesting because usually it's 2 timelines, different characters, like completely separate, and then they intersect somehow. This is the same character, like 40 years apart. So it's the beginning of her career, and then it's like her at the, I believe, right when she's starting her retirement. So it's like very different life stages. And I'm very curious. She comes from like a family where her dad's a doctor, and she is going into her own medical profession, and she works in family planning. So it's going to be very tense. I can already tell there's like a lot of really hard situations she's going to go through and a lot of really interesting people she's going to meet in really hard situations. So I think that it'll be a very like timely read and it'll probably make me cry. But I am liking it in the sense of like the writing is really good so far. But like I said, only 28 pages in, but I'm sure I'll get momentum like 20% through once my brain handles the switching a little bit better.
Is it historical fiction?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which isn't like something I read a lot of, but my book club, we do like a new mood read every month, and I try to make sure it's almost like a new genre every single month too. So I'll usually kind of like guide us. I'll be like, this is the theme we're going for so that we're still reading diversely. Now you guys suggest books and then we'll vote. And then every once in a while, I'm like, no, we're just reading this. So this one we did vote on, but I had told them like it had to fit one of the prompts for the challenge for July. So there was a little bit of guidance, but just a little. All right, Rebecca, you go. How's your journey going?
Okay, so I almost made it through all 4 of my sampling. Once I realized that the first chapter of Wishful Thinking is like 20 pages long, I put it down and like read the other ones and then went back to it because I was like, I've technically read this first chapter already, so it's fine. But funnily enough, this one I think grabbed me the most. I also am ready for maybe not so much spooky season because I'm not really into like horror like super much, but I'm very into fall. I'm ready for pumpkins. I'm ready for the fair. I'm ready for it to not be 97 degrees outside. And this book opens in a like town fair situation. So it was very fun in that. I forgot the main character is one of 3 sisters, but she jokingly says 4 because she's really close with her cousin and they are helping her wedding plan and she's being a little bit of a bridezilla. And I feel like there's going to be a magical element to this because they are all witches, I believe, or have some sort of magical abilities. And it opens with her telling us that she just broke up with the mayor's son, like within the last few months. And she's like, that man will not let it go. Like anytime I run into him, he's like asking for a second chance. She's like, I don't want to. I just don't want to. So the vibes are good so far with this one. But I think I'm gonna continue with like happiness, if I'm gonna be honest, because I don't know. I don't normally like is it second person point of view where like it's lots of you. But the initial first chapter was that, and it I don't to say I like this setup is weird because like conceptually I don't, but she has, I think, an affair with a professor at one point, and then later things are over and she gets a random call from a journalist that's like, hey, so you and this person had a relationship, and she's like, what? No, we didn't. And he's like, there's lots of photographic evidence, and also there's a woman who's come forward about potential abuse there. She's not being secretive, like here's her name, and she's like, I don't know who this is, and that's where I kind of like left off. And I'm very interested in that kind of conversation where because she was in college, so she's of age, but there's obviously still a very clear like power dynamic there and things to discuss there. But it's interesting to go from the very first chapter is her like really excited to see him because he's coming to do a talk somewhere in New York, and she's there and she knows she's going to meet up with him after, to like the flip of her being in another country and then getting this random call from a journalist. I don't know, something with the energy that the author started in the beginning of this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna like flip through these pages pretty quickly. So I think I'm gonna continue with this. I did like the first real chapter of In the Dream House. I was confused at first about where I was because each chapter starts with the title of Dream House, and then it says something. So I actually really liked her dig at prologues, and then she wrote one, and I was like, wait, what are we doing? But this is definitely I need to read this not after I worked for 10 hours kind of a thing. Like the writing is excellent, but I have to like think about what she's saying, which is not a bad thing, but it's just not something for me to start at 9 p.m. So I think this actually might be like a weekend like read where like I kind of like take it slowly and just hang out with it. But I like the vibes of this so far. I appreciate that, like the commitment to the bit, if you will, of like each chapter is has its like own theme, and then there's clearly an overarching theme. It's very creative. I wasn't sure how it's going to deal with the topic of domestic abuse, but it's so far it's told in a way that's not preachy. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's not very in your face yet. It's so far it's just been like a, hey, be open to this concept has been the vibe so far. And then Do You Think This Man made me laugh a little bit, but then I also was like, what are we doing? A little bit. I did read a chapter from each person's perspective almost. I stopped halfway through the guy's perspective. I think partly because I just knew I wasn't going to keep going with this one. One thing I will say with this author, I often find I need the audiobook to start her books. I don't know why, but each time I've had to start with the audiobook. And I think it's going to be the same for this, for me to like actually get the tone. I think part of it is because I'm like, I can't tell if this guy is grumpy, neurodivergent, all of the above. And sometimes you really can only get that from a narrator of like trying to understand the exact tone inside somebody's head, because the way it's written isn't giving me a lot of that. But I'm like, something's different here. So that's where I'm at.
It's like a very mood reader stack. They're all extremely different. So
Yes.
yeah, it's totally like whatever
I'm a
he's
hardcore
gonna
mood
strike
reader.
now. I feel you though on the like not starting something late at night, especially like on a weekday. Like there's I don't know, like 80% of the books on my shelf I'd probably avoid. You
Yeah.
know? I'm like, these are great, but like no world building, no nonfiction.
Not if I'm not already familiar with it. That's the other thing too, is I just came off of everyone in my book club has read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and I was the only one who hadn't. And they were like, just read it so you can talk about it with us. And I was like, fine. I was like, I will try them. I said, but I reserve the right to DNF, like if I want to, thinking I wasn't going to get through them. And then I read both of them when I read them. I took a break in between, but I read both of them like within 48 hours of starting them. And so I finished that last night, and I was so pissed when I like ended that book, and I was just like, okay, I was like, I hate you guys for making me read this. And now I have like emotional hangover from it. And it wasn't even, I didn't hate it, but I was just mad by the end of it. And if you've read it, like you know why I'm mad. And so now I'm like, what do I read from? Where do I go from here? And I'm like, I can't world build right now because she saved all of that for the last like 400 pages of that book. So
yeah, switching gears is rough.
yeah.
All right, we have a new friend joining us. Hi, Kendra. Welcome, welcome. So what I made everyone kind of do was explain if they had heard of the challenge before, like if they'd been reading along or if they're new and just finding it now, and what we're reading today, and kind of like what you post, like where you post, and like what kind of books you're reading, just like an overview. It's not too serious, so just whatever comes to mind, just a little stream of consciousness about yourself so that everyone can kind of know. And then as everyone should know, all the links to follow everyone is down below, but they're also on various platforms. So, you know, check out the podcast, check out the YouTube, check out all of the things. But Kendra, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Like you just said, my name is Kendra. I mostly post on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok as Hey, It's Kendra, not Kendra Reads with Love. But I'm also on Threads as well. My focus, I mostly read romance, but I read pretty much anything that my mood strikes for. And I try to focus on amplifying Black authors. So I'll focus a lot on like promoting Black romances, especially indie Black romances, or just any Black authors in general. So you'll see me talk about that Instagram, TikTok, Threads at any point in time. And for tonight, I'm currently reading actually Real by Kennedy Ryan. So I brought that. I'm actually listening to it on audio, so I'm kind of doing the whole immersive reading experience with that. But so I don't know if I'll really like fully read this tonight since I'm kind of like enjoying it on audio. But for the diverse baseline challenge for the September prompt, I brought this book, Undiplomatic, for the memoir by a BIPOC author. And so this is by Deisha Dyer. She's the former White House social secretary. So this is her memoir about like her journey to getting this job, and she was only the second Black woman to ever hold the position, and it was under the Obama administration. And she kind of just talks about how on paper she wasn't necessarily qualified for the position, but everything that she had kind of gone through and had gained experience in kind of brought her to this very, you know, big position. And she used to be a hip hop journalist, so there's lots of like music references in it, and basically like her diary entries is very good. So and I got to meet her just like a few weeks ago, so that's what I will be reading tonight. So that's me.
That sounds super cool. I'm glad that like we recently connected too, because I need like indie recs for sure. So like I'm excited to start following people that promote more indie books. It's not something that like I've actively seeked out really yet, and that is purely because I started my accounts with the full intention of like taking advantage of publishers for free books.
Yeah.
And then everything else that came with it, I was like, now I get to make friends. Like I get to do all this other cool stuff that I didn't even realize was here once you kind of unlocked that world. But I had a social media background. So I was like, I'm just making a portfolio so that I can get free books because I can't afford to read at the rate that I do. But now I am thankfully on a couple lists. And so I get some free books here and there. But indie books don't apply to that. So I haven't really been picking up a lot of indie books unless they've like scratched the surface of virality on Book Talk or something like that. So it's cool to like start discovering new things, even like 4 years in. Like there's always time to try something new. So I'm excited about that. Cool. So now we kind of know a little bit about everyone, what everyone is reading. Kate, do you want to give us an update on how your first sprint chunk? I was like, let's not call it that. What are words today? I'm getting sleepy here. How our first sprint went, like what you read and how you're feeling about your book.
Yeah, let me talk about my sprint chunk. I read 29 pages in Oleander Sword, and it's so hard to talk about this and not be spoilery because it is the second book in the series. So I will just be very vague and say that I just read a really intense battle scene with some magic that was surprising and that we hadn't seen yet. So I was like, oh, things are happening, things are changing. This is also the series. If you've read this first book, you know, if you've read Jasmine Throne, you already know that this is a very, very slow burn sapphic romance, like the slowest of slow burns. And the burn is still slowly burning in Oleander Sword. So they have corresponded with some letters. So I will say that there's been some letters back and forth between them, but yeah, it's so hard to talk about. It's so hard to talk about it and not be spoilery.
It's like the original sexting, sending like a letter by a crow. Super hot.
Yes, but so good. I love this author's writing style. This is very heavy on the politics. I would say that romance is definitely like secondary, and that the politics part of the political fantasy really take center stage, which I like. I do like a romantasy now and again, but I really like I feel like with my fantasy, a lot of times I want heavy on the fantasy and then less on the romance. But then when I read contemporary romance, then obviously I'm reading that for the romance, clearly. So that's why I flip back and forth between the two a lot of times.
Did you just read Jasmine Throne like recently? Like was it or
No, I read Jasmine Throne actually a while ago. I am a serial non-finisher when it comes to series. I am the worst. I will read the first book and I will be blown away by it. I've done this so many times. I don't even want to tell you other series that I've done it with because it's really sad. But I will read the first book and I will be like, yes, this is amazing. This is incredible. What is it about me that I can't pick up the second book or the third book? I do not know. I need to fix that problem. So no, I read Jasmine Throne a while ago. I actually had to watch a refresher, like a little synopsis video on TikTok, so I could remember what happened. And then I was like, okay, got it. It's been recent enough that it was still kind of there.
I need like all of the creators who create like recaps of series videos to have a like buy me coffee Venmo link because of like their service to the world, because I never read like a series back to back, but I will forget everything. And of course, like once you're reading it, you start to remember certain things, but like I wish you could have that like little recap, like when you watch a TV show and it's like, here's what happened last season. Like that's what I want. That's what my brain wants for a book. I feel like if books started doing that almost as like a prologue, I would be so hyped. We need that, but I don't know. Maybe we're like very niche group of people because we consume so many books. Brittany, how did your reading chunk go?
I love that. I also, that's something that I like about this book. I'm reading Fate of the Sun King by Nisha J. Tooley. It's the third book in this series. So again, like similar to Kate, I can't share too much because it'll spoil like the past books, and I want to respect anyone who hasn't read them. But I will tell you there was a kidnapping scene and there was a rescue scene and there was a really big realization that really turned the main character Lore's world on its axis. Um, but I did like in this book, in the first page, Nisha gave like a list of characters, and it was the most unserious list of characters because it reminds you of who everyone is, and then it reminds you of like the biggest things that happened for them in the last two books. And I was thinking, okay, I need every fantasy book to have this. And on that note, I love, like, I think that people get really upset with like info dumping in fantasies, but I need it because those are the times where they remind, like, that's literally just to remind the reader of what happened in the last book. When they're like, oh, why are you like this? Oh, well, maybe because yesterday X, Y, and Z happened and he said this to me. And I like, whenever I read reviews where people are like, why did they say that? We already know what happens. I'm like, I didn't. I needed that. That was for me specifically. So I love when books do that. But this is going well. I'm on page, what page am I on? 230. But I think there's like 500 pages. So I'm almost halfway, maybe. Yeah.
That is wild. Fantasy books, it's also like they're so long. And I just like, I get like so overwhelmed. I'm just like, ugh, I could read this one book that's one in a series of like six, or I could read like three books that are the same length and then I don't feel overwhelmed because I don't have five more to read after. And that's my problem. I actually just came across like, there's a really cool creator. I think her Instagram is Lutella or Lutula. I don't know how you pronounce it because I've never heard anyone pronounce it out loud, but it's Litulla. And she makes really cool like graphics, right? Like that's kind of her bread and butter. But I've never seen her do a read along. And she's doing a read along through the end of the year where it's encouraging you to find the like longest book on your shelf. So like the one that's you're most intimidated by. And it's like from now through like January or something. So you have plenty of time to read also, which is nice. So I'll probably join that and like add that to one of my TBRs for the rest of the year. But it'll probably be something fantasy because I avoid them, even though I love them so much. But I've never heard of the like character list. That's super cool. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I recently, like, I'm a huge fan of the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer Armentrout, and the book that recently came out, Born of Blood and Ash, which is technically a part of the prequel series. Normally when the books come out, like, I take a week, I just devour it, and for whatever reason I was like 600 pages. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if I can do this. Maybe I need to take this a few chapters at a time. It was just very daunting, especially when you don't read that long of a book like all the time. You know, it can get like really overwhelming.
I had like a similar experience with that series of like Kate, where like you read the book and you're like, wait, what happened? Because you read it quickly. And then you didn't pick up the rest of them, even though you loved it. So I did that. Like, I actually read it last Christmas. I had, like, you know, the time where like the family's all sitting around doing nothing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna bring like a couple books that I've been avoiding. And I read the first book in the series, and I was like, this is great. Like, I was just like flying through it. I was like, this is wonderful. And then nothing. I like ordered the next two, so I guess that's something. But I don't know. We'll get back to it. All right. So before we get back into our reading, I want to leave off like one more question. And this is going to be like super vague, so it's super easy, or maybe it's too hard because it's too vague. But I just want a recommendation of an auto by BIPOC author that you love. So it can be literally any genre, anyone, but that way we don't have to think of like a specific book. Just like you can also list a couple if it's too hard to choose one, because it's like favorite children and all of that, you know. But I feel like that also shows like personality, and it gets people started on their reading challenges and discovering new authors too.
I think mine would be Case and Calendar because they have written like across different age groups, like middle grade, young adult, new adult slash adult, and they have quite a big like backlist. So if you're starting off and you don't know, like you can literally pick any of them, and if maybe that's not your jam, you can just try another one in a different age group. And I feel like um, I don't know. I'm so impressed by authors who can just write across different age groups and like different kinds of stories. So I really love Kaysen's books. I think my favorite ones would probably be Lark and Kasim Start a Revolution, which is the young adult novel. And then they just came out with like an adult one, and it was a romance, and it's totally the name is escaping me, but I'm gonna figure it out and I will write in the comments
Ooh.
once I look it up. Um,
Stars in Your Eyes?
yes, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry, I'm like looking at
Um,
it. Yeah.
You're looking at it. Thank you so much. Yes, I really love Kaysen's writing, and just I think like the character dynamics and like the questions that I feel like my favorite books are the ones that like ask me questions but don't give me the answer, and they just force me to think about things and like kind of guide me to evolve in some way or like expand my perspective. And I feel like Kaysen does that without being on the nose about it, you know? So I really appreciate that about their books.
All right, I'll just jump in. Unless you want to go, Rebecca. It's like we unmuted at the same time. You go.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about how I don't really read YA, and yet the two authors that popped in my head are both YA authors. Tracy Dion, and I'm looking at this because I am halfway through Blood March, and I have been literally since like a month before it came out. They sent me a copy. I like flew through like the first half. I put it down for some reason, and then I just like didn't finish it. And it's not like I was having a good time. I think I was. This is the thing that happens to me. Kind of what we're talking about with the series is if the series isn't finished. And I'm like at the end, and then I'm either cliffhangered or whatever, and then I have to wait like 18 months for the next book. Am I gonna pick up the next book is a huge question mark. And it's never because I'm not having a good time. It's because I'm like, I don't remember. And then I like go through and I start and I go, I'm super confused. So I thought about that. And then Jordan Afleco is the other one that came to mind. I loved Ray Bear, and I forget what the second book was called, but I loved that duology. I flew through it. It was so good. Redemptor, yes, Redemptor. So good. And then I think they just had another one come out. Yeah, The Maid and the Crocodile just came out last month, but I have not picked that up yet. And that's from a different series.
Rebecca, if you ever go back to read like Legendborn again and then Bloodmark, let me know,
I'm
because
going to.
okay, let me know when you do, because I haven't read Bloodmarked yet because I wanted to read them like both back to back. And I was like the worst buddy reader for like the last like 4 years, but in the last 6 months, I've gotten really good at it. So,
Yeah.
and it's just because I like make myself sit down and read it, but I've realized like it's super fun. Like, no wonder you guys are doing this all the
So
time.
fun.
Like,
I'm really bad at it too. What I've started doing is using the story graphs function for it, because then I don't feel bad if I fall behind or if I get ahead, because it's like you're commenting as you go.
mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
it's so nice. Yeah. I think I'm going to try and shoot for like maybe January.
Okay.
Which
Sounds
I know
good.
seems so far off, but it's because Oathbound
No,
comes out
I
in March.
get it.
And so I figure like it's close enough to release that if I start it in January and if it takes me, I'd like to go through it slower maybe this time than I did because with Legendborn, I think I read it in a day, maybe a day and a half. And Bloodmarked is like I'm looking at it, I was like it's a thick boy. It's very thick. So maybe by then, and then it's like it'll be just like a few weeks until
Deal.
the next one comes out.
We'll circle back.
We'll try. Yeah.
Super cool. Super. I'm showing my age here. Circle back.
I just have to say that even though I suck at finishing series, I did read Legendborn and Bloodmarked. Like, read both of them.
Yay! You win.
Thank
Yay.
you. I needed the applause. I needed to be cheered on.
I know you needed
absolute
your
quality.
redemption arc. I was giving you too much shit.
Yes, I needed that.
I met Tracy Dion when she came to the Bay Area for her book tour for Legendborn, and I am probably on a like do not allow her in list now because I cried in her face and I was like, whoa, I'm so sorry. This is really embarrassing. So yeah, I just have to let you know I am corny offline just as I am online. So yeah. But she was delightful. She was a great sport. But she was probably like, do not let that little Asian girl in again.
I bet that happens a lot because the way Legendborn made me feel alone in my room, I can't imagine like going up to her after and having to talk to her about it.
No, I'm sure she was flattered. You're like the sweetest human ever. I can just like only imagine how cute that interaction was. I'm sure it made her day. Like to literally like move someone emotional, like to like tears by your words on paper is insane and probably a really cool feeling. So
It was really, I mean, like, we have different experiences, but the way that she talks about like, being in like white academic spaces was really powerful. Because I work in higher ed. So yeah, so I talked about that with her and I was like, sorry. But yes, if y'all ever get a chance to like go to her book tour, she's so fun live and so like just such a great sport with any questions that the audience asks. And I loved her.
it's like kind of a bit of that like opposite side when people are like art is subjective and separate the art from the artist. Like I can never. If I meet them in person and I love them more, I will start to pre-order their books. If I meet them in person and they're weird, I actually don't want to read their books anymore, even if like, and I mean, there's different levels of weird. To be fair, like a lot of us readers are really shy and awkward, and I give people a lot of credit for that. If you're just like shy and you're not outgoing, I can recognize that. But there's an author that I met at Stimulate who I will not name because that's not who I am. But she was so rude when I like went up in her line and I just like got home and like quietly unhauled my 2 books of hers. I was like, that's okay. There's other people that are nicer in the world to support. And she wasn't even like cruel, but you got to go with the vibe. So I am not surprised that Tracy Dion is lovely though. It tracks. Any other auto by authors?
Okay, I'm gonna kind of go. Let me start over.
Okay.
I just barely started getting into historical romance, like as of this year. I have not been a big historical romance girly at all. And let me tell you, I've been missing out because there are some great historical romances out there. But I'm going to say my auto-buy author is Adriana Herrera. So far, have loved both of the books. There's the third one's coming out. I loved the first 2. The first one is The Caribbean Heiress in Paris. And then the second one is Island Princess Starts a Scandal. And it was literally it was probably the spiciest sapphic book I've ever read. It is just no holds barred. And it was just fantastic. I love Adriana Herrera. So I think that she'll be an auto-buy author for me. Now that I'm in my historical romance era, I guess.
The spice is good when we like start to giggle as we bring it up. We're like, it was really nice. It's perfect.
I get that way about Amelie Howard's books. She also writes historical romance. I have one right now that I need to read, and I'm just like, she hits you out of nowhere with it sometimes. Like, those were like fighting or something, and like 3 minutes later, you're like, oh, corsets are coming off. Okay.
Wait, are you reading the worst? Is it the worst Duke in London? Is that the one
I
that you're
just
gonna read?
started it a couple of days ago. I'm only like 5 chapters in, maybe.
Okay, I'm reading that right now too. I'm like
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah, but those first 2 books, I absolutely loved them. So yeah, when I saw the option for that, I was like, and request NetGalley, please give me.
Also, Alyssa Cole. If you haven't read any of Alyssa Cole's historical romance, super good. I'm a big fan.
For me, I have a few author authors. They're all romance, but I will say for a Black indie, Danielle Allen. She is really good. I know her book Curvy Girl Summer was like
yeah, okay.
super popular, but she has actually a lot of books like in her backlist that are really good. And she's just a really cool person. Like, you know, you meet an author in person and you already love their books, but then you meet them and they're great, and then you just like love them even more. That's kind of like how I felt after I met her at Steamy Lit. So she's really good. And then also Nicola Yoon, I literally love her, love all like everything she writes. I just love it so much. And yeah, so those would be like my big two. Obviously besides Kennedy Ryan, I think we all know that, and Brittany Cherry. So that's it for me.
What is that dancing book? The Nicola Yoon's. What is the title of that book? It's like
Instructions for Dancing.
Oh my gosh, Instructions for Dancing. I will never forgive Nicola Yoon. If I see her in the streets, I will never forgive her for that book. I'm serious. I'm still not recovered. I think I read that in 2021. I might cry right now.
Seriously. I don't think I'll ever recover either. Like it's just some things are unforgivable. Okay? Like even though she's my favorite, like one of my favorite authors, some things are unforgivable. Just like I will not I hope Kennedy Ryan doesn't see this. I will not forgive Kennedy Ryan for what she did in The Rebel King, and I won't say it, you know, in case anyone hasn't read it, but something that she did in The Rebel King that I just won't forgive her for. I can't.
We all have
those. We read her Skyland series. I need to get through like all of her backlists. Mm-hmm. No one makes me want to fist fight teenagers more than Kennedy Ryan does. Like, and I know I was that awful as a teenager. Like, I know I was a brat. I absolutely know it. And I'm just like, God, these children.
You talking about the daughter from Before I Let Go?
Yeah. Don't believe in violence against children, but I was just like, just one good pop across the mouth might get it done. It might.
You're like, it's fiction, right?
It's fiction. It's awful. I read my first Brittany Cherry book this summer, and I will be going back for more. Absolutely will be going back for more.
So I got one recently, so that makes me excited.
She's really good. Just prepare to like cry.
Oh no.
Like every time, like I literally tried to start like one of her books a few days ago in the morning, like when I woke up, and I was 7% in and I was literally crying. I was like, it's 8 a.m. I can't do this today. Like I can't do this today.
It's too early for these tears.
It's too early.
That's what I was going to say about
the problem with players. I was like, I gotta go. I need to. I can't do this right now. But it was so good. It was so good. Also, if you're like a parentified eldest child, just keep your tissues next to you. Text your therapist. But it's good. It's a good time.
Okay. I like had my answers ready, and then I got like so excited hearing you guys. I like forgot them all, and I had to like look at my shelves again to remember who I was gonna say. I will just do 2 for now because I feel like I could go on all day, and we actually should read at some point. But Tia Williams, I just like adore everything that she does and the human that she is. Her books also make me like tear up every single time. I feel like she just like bleeds emotion on pages. Like it's so intense in the best way, and they're not even that long. So I don't know like what sorcery is happening, because usually I need more time to like get attached to characters, but her books are just so good. But of course, she doesn't have that many out yet. So, like, we're still waiting. You know, there's not like a big backlog you can go for with her, unfortunately. But they are fantastic. And then one that does have a big backlog. So I've been doing a series here on my YouTube where I interview romance authors, and I do like 2 to 4 like in a group like this, so that they like have to play games together, and it's like a little bit chaotic instead of just like a standard interview. And I call it forced proximity because I'm forcing them to hang out with me. And one of the authors that I invited ended up not being able to go like last minute because of a literal hurricane. But I love to be prepared, and I love to, like, you know, do everything I can to be my best little creator. And she had a backlist of 14 books, which I read before the stream, and then she wasn't there. And I was like, ma'am, I have read 14 books of yours, so I will interview her eventually. I got to meet her also at Stimulant, but it's Sajni Patel, who like I adore, and she also writes like different ages, and her books have like such good family dynamics in the sense of like really complicated families, but she also gives you more character development than like the average romance book. Because I read a lot of romance, and I feel like, you know, a lot of them are just very light and fun, and that's great, and that's what I want most of the time. But like her, it's just like you turn the page and it's just like, I don't know, she like socks it to you where you're like, damn, I'm really invested in these characters. Like, I'm stressed about like their situations. Like, I just start to almost think of them as real people. And that's when I know like, oh, this is good. I'm like wondering what they're doing when I'm like not reading, which is bizarre. So Sajini Patel, that's who I'm like number one on her fan list for sure.
She
And I
wrote
would,
Trouble with Hating You.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that one and like First Love Take Two. I think I liked First Love Take Two a little bit more, but like I really liked both. She also has this like YA story about, it's called like Knockout or The Knockout, something Knockout, maybe A Knockout. I don't know, Knockout. And it's about like the protagonist does Muay Thai because she used to do Muay Thai. And so she like is a badass, and she would like knock people out literally in her real life. And then she like wrote about this like young girl in high school who's like rising up through the ranks, and it was really cool. That was my first book of hers. All right, now I'm rambling. I got like really excited. I started like sweating. I was like cold, and now I'm like sweating. All right, I think that we're at 40. We definitely chatted longer, but that was good because I think like that's half the fun of it is like getting to actually know each other a bit. Let's say we read for 45. Yeah. Okay. And once again, if you guys like have to pop off, just no worries. We will find you online and talk to you later. Just wave and head out whenever you have to go. But I will find another little pumpkin timer and put some lo-fi going for us.
I have to pop off now, but it was so lovely to talk with y'all, and thank you so much for hosting this. And please, I'm happy to join like any future ones. But good luck with everyone's diverse baseline reading challenges. I'm like, I'm so grateful that y'all are doing it, and I'm just
Yes.
very
Thank you
grateful
for
for the
all your hard
community.
work.
So. Thanks,
We love
y'all.
you.
Have a great night.
Bye.
I feel like you were gonna say something earlier, and like I don't know what you were gonna say. Like I feel like you were gonna say something, and then the conversation just kept going, and I just keep thinking about it.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
No, I mean, my brain's always like going a million different directions. So maybe scheming for later. And then there were two. Kendra, are you in Pacific time zone too, or do you just stay up late?
No, yeah, I'm in Eastern time.
Okay.
I usually I read at night anyway, so
Yeah.
this is what I would be doing right now.
That's what I figured. It's like one of the two. I feel like either people are like same time zone as me or just stay up late anyways reading. So
Yeah.
it's pretty chill. Um, all right. Well, I figured I would just like make up some more questions to ask you because I love asking people questions. um, but it's cool because I feel like this is the first time we've really gotten to chat. We've just been kind of like floating around each other online, you know.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, well, this is fun. It's like a mini interview. But I was curious how you got started with like your book accounts. Like when did you start and kind of what's your story of why you started? Like I mentioned, like I started for free books and then I just stuck around. So I was like, oh, it's cool here. I like
Yeah.
it.
Which is not a bad reason to start, honestly. I started in 2022. I have like obviously always read, been a reader, but like I got really deep into the fan fiction wormhole and like I was just reading fan fictions for like years. And then finally I was like, okay, I need to like read some actual books, and I was trying to find influencers who I could follow to like recommend me some books, because when you're outside of the book space, it is hard to like really find books that are, you know, written by BIPOC authors. I'll just say that. I don't want to say like diverse
Yeah.
because like that's such a general word, but you know, I just wanted something different than what I was seeing all the time, I guess. And I just couldn't really like find a lot of them. Like I think I found two influencers. And now that I'm actually in the space, it's actually kind of crazy because like there's so
There's so
many.
many. Uh-huh.
But like just by me literally searching like in Instagram, like black bookstagrammers, like it was like nothing. Like nothing was like really coming up for me. I'm just like, I don't understand, you know what I mean? So that's really what made me want to create my book account. I was like, okay, well, clearly there's like not a lot of black bookstagrammers, which I didn't know there is a lot. And I just was like, you know, I want to read, you know, more black authors. And from the two that I found, thank God, I followed them on Goodreads, and actually that's like how I found Kennedy Ryan and JL Seegers, like a lot of indie authors even before, you know, I joined Bookstagram. But that's pretty much the main point. I just wanted a space where I could talk about books, because I was kind of talking about them on my personal page, but it's like no one really cares, you know, like in my personal life, I felt like, so I just wanted somewhere where I could just like talk about it. And I really didn't think anything necessarily would come of it. Like obviously my page has grown so much since then. But yeah, I just wanted somewhere I could talk about books and find other readers and more authors, and that pretty much brings me to now. And I found like so many people that, you know, I have so many things in common with, even more so than like people just like in real life, you know. So it's been great, you know, being in this community.
It's it's wild how much like work though you do have to put in to like tell your algorithm that those are the creators and the types of like books that you want to interact with. That you're like, this isn't like, I mean, obviously I'm a blonde white woman, and so I log on there and that's all they're serving me, but that's from what I hear, what they're serving everyone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like there is a plethora of us, so there's definitely more of us also, but then it's almost like if you're not training your algorithm, that's all you're going to end up interacting with. And so it's like that age old argument of like people are like, my book talk's not diverse, and we're like, well, you just tattled on yourself because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to like actually put in the work.
you really do. It's like, I don't know, it's so crazy to me, like algorithms and all that stuff. But one thing I do know, that like the more you interact with certain posts, the more those posts will pop up in your feed, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. So
Have
it
you
happens to me all
noticed
the
that you
time.
almost have to like periodically go back in and like do it again?
Yeah.
Because I've been noticing that more, especially like in the last year, where I'm like, where are all these people that like I followed that I used to interact with? Like I haven't been seeing them in a while. And to be
Yeah.
fair, like I go through bouts of like not interacting with book content like at all. Cause I have like a separate personal account that I use for just scrolling because sometimes I need just not books. You know, I think it's also helpful for finding like trends to take over to like the book world and all of that too. So I use it like as a resource in that way. But I don't know, that's something I've just like really noticed lately, that all these creators that like I did all the work to find, or all these books that like I was like, hey, this is what I want to read. Like now I'm not getting recommended those. So I had to like go back in and like be like, hey, this is the type of content that I want to see.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that does happen. And I pretty much do use, my personal account to just, like you said, it's definitely completely not books. Like I'm actually shocked if I see any like book
Mhm.
content like recommended to me on my personal page, because like that's the side where I'm like catching up on like pop culture and like things that are like happening in the world, because obviously my book account is just like straight books and I can like definitely just be focused in that. But it's nice to even have an escape from the book world. Books obviously are our escape, but like when you're an influencer,
It's
things
also
can get
work.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's like what else is in your non-book like for you page? Like what are the things that pop up for you? Like I mean sometimes it's like trending things, so like things will come and go. For me it's a lot of Taylor Swift at all times.
I was, yeah.
So that's a big one for me consistently. I feel like right now I'm getting a lot of like Halloween content. So like what people are baking and
Yes.
super cute, cozy content because like it's still over 90 degrees here. So I'm just like living vicariously through all the cozy content.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely music. Like I huge music fan. I'll just say that generally.
Okay.
So definitely lots of music. I got my master's in public health, so I actually follow a lot
Super
of
cool.
like very serious like health accounts and like news accounts, like and cooking accounts randomly. I enjoy cooking videos. Like I don't know, if I'm scrolling and I see a cooking video or baking video, like I'm gonna sit there and watch it, and hopefully one day I will make it.
Have you ever came across the like super sexy cooking videos? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it like men trying
Yes.
to
They
be like
were
sexualized
so
cooking?
over the top. They were like, I mean, you watch it and you're like, I get why this could be someone's thing, but
Yeah.
I get like full blown flustered. Like, I'm not in this kitchen with you. Like, I do not need to, but like, I'm like sweating. I'm like, this is a lot. And I'm like, this is nothing compared to what I read in an average
Right.
romance book. But those videos are like on
And
another
the way they edit them and like the sounds, it's like an
so funny though.
experience, really. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've come across like cleaning videos, like men who are like
Yes.
cleaning. I'm like,
I like a time lapse cleaning though. I got really into this guy who does like mowing. He like knocks on people's doors.
oh,
That makes me sound so lame, but I promise you it's the most satisfying thing. Also, it's like perfect for like at night when you're like calming down, you want to like scroll, but you don't want like I don't know, you want something kind of wholesome.
okay.
And so he will knock on doors and he lives like in a sort of small town. And he knocks on doors of like places and he'll be like, hey, like, does anyone live in that house next door? Like, is it abandoned? Like, what's the deal? Whatever. And they're like, well, yeah, like the city's supposed to cut the grass, but they never do. Or, no one's lived there for 10 years. And he will just go through and like clean up the whole sidewalk. He'll clean up everything. And he just does like a time lapse of like the whole thing. So you just like get to watch it start from finish, like get cleaned up. And it's like a cute little like public service. Like now the kids can walk on the sidewalk from the bus or whatever,
Okay.
But I don't know. I get like on those videos or like power washing TikTok sometimes.
Yes, those carpet cleaning videos.
Mhm.
Yeah. What
We're
else did they
very
remind?
multifaceted, not just books, guys. Power
Exactly.
watching.
Like we have other interests, clearly.
That's
Yeah.
funny. If you were starting like your accounts now, would you approach like it differently, or would you have like sound advice for someone who was starting their accounts now?
Um, geez.
Thank
That's a good question.
you. I just made it up.
Honestly, I feel like I have like the same lame advice. Like, I don't know. I just say don't put too much pressure on yourself. I feel like a lot of people, even especially in the book community, put like so much pressure on themselves to like make the best content and like get all the views and get all the likes and stuff, and it's like we're just like doing this for fun, and
Mhm.
like you said, hopefully we'll get free books along the way because like I feel like buying books these days can like literally buy you out of a house and home. Like they're so expensive. So like, that's like a plus, but just don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like we're doing this because we love reading, like we enjoy reading. And so if to me, I feel like if I'm influencing one person to read a book, like I'm happy. Like
Yeah.
all I want to do is just convince people to read books that I like. And if they do and they come back and they're like, "Oh, I started this book because of you," like I'm so satisfied. Like that's just me though, because I genuinely started it just for fun, and all this other stuff, like I did not know about book events, like I didn't even know about like PR lists when I first started. I
Mhm.
just kind of like got here, and then I saw people getting like book mail, and then I'm like, how are they getting stuff like this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like how is this a thing? So yeah, I just say, I don't really have any real advice, but
I think that's helpful.
yeah.
I feel like mine like probably changes like every few months or like weeks or whatever. Right
Mhm.
now I feel like my advice would be like not to get stuck in like a rut of doing like the same kind of content. I
Mm.
feel like I see so many people be like, well, Instagram used to be a photos app. Like it should be just for photos. Or they're like, TikTok was better in this era. Or like Threads is just another Twitter. And it's like, okay, and what? Like
Yeah.
it isn't what it was and it is what it is. So like
Yeah.
if Instagram is prioritizing reels and you want your content to be seen, like you are going to have to make reels. Or
Mhm.
if Threads is new and they're like literally giving out creator bonuses,
Mhm.
try posting on Threads because I bet you they're pushing out content, you know?
Mhm.
And so I think it's just about like the adaptability because I think a lot of people I see like it's hard because you see like so many complaints all the time, right? And I
Yeah.
think especially like on Threads, it really leans towards complaining. It's just
Yeah.
like that kind of a platform, just like Twitter.
Yep.
And it's hard because like I am like a sensitive person. So I'm like, all of these things are not directed at you and like you don't need to take them personally, but like sometimes I still do. But I'll see people be like, why did big creators get like a book box or all this like PR when I am a small creator and I would love this package? And I'm like, I want you to get that package. Like, I'm also on your team, but I've also been doing this for 4 years to try to get to this level. Do
Mhm.
I not also deserve this? Like, it
Yeah.
isn't one or the other. And so,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I like almost want to get combative on there and I have to like relax and be like, okay, wait, we need to like reframe things and get people to like think about things in a different way because otherwise, we're all just going to be posting about books, getting them for free. No one's ever going to get paid for all the work that they put in.
Mhm.
Accounts are going to grow. We're not going to like connect with new people. Like, like we're going to get like at a standstill and all be taken advantage of. Whereas like if you're a fashion influencer or a makeup influencer or any other industry, like it's so normal to get paid and people are like commenting on your videos being like, get your bag, sis. But like
Right.
if you're like a bookstagrammer, they're like, you should just be reading for free because you love it.
Yeah.
I get
Exactly.
so triggered.
same amount of work, and it's like, yeah. And I also, that's okay, like honestly, that's another thing, and that's another thing that actually like tell people who complain, because I feel like people who complain, it's just because it's not happening for them, you know what I mean? And I feel like nobody should be made to apologize for the opportunities that they get. And the way I look at it, like if it happens for one person, it can happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that's not everyone's mindset, but like it's still like it's no use in complaining something that you can't change, you can't control. Authors are going to send PR boxes to who they want to send PR boxes to. Sometimes it's because they have a big account. Sometimes it's simply because they like that person. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
talked to many indie authors who sent PR to people that they followed for a long time, for years, and now they have a book and they're like, oh my god, I want to send this to my favorite influencer. So there's a lot of different reasons why accounts big and small get PR, but I'm personally not a fan of like screaming into the void and like complain and like targeting, you know, like big accounts, like, oh my god, like I hate that this person got this, you know, PR box. Like your time will come. You know, like we're all working hard here, and like you said, you know, you've been here 4 years, which is a long time. It's a long time. Okay, like I've only been
Yeah.
here 2 years, and even I say like the same thing. Like, you know, I've been in this space, we've been in this space, we're posting, we are all working just as hard as the other person. And I feel like a lot of people expect to like get like thousands of followers in like one
Yeah.
year. Like if a
Like
year
Emily
goes by and they're
Harris.
not at 10K, they're like pissed. You know what I mean? Like calm down, you know? Like it doesn't
Mhm.
happen like that for everybody. So
Yeah. It's weird, and I don't know, maybe like that should be something that like I make more store like videos about, was like what it was like when I got started. Because like especially like now, like my shelves, people see that and they're like, "Oh, I literally thought you were in a bookstore. Like of course it's easy for you." And I'm like,
okay.
"It is now, but
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't even say like easy. It's still a lot of work, but it is definitely easier. And like I can recognize that and acknowledge that for sure. I'm like, you just wait till I get my rolling ladder. Like those videos are gonna be crazy. But like, you know, like I'm not above exploiting myself for a ladder. um, but it's hard. Like everything is just like it's all about, I guess, transparency. But it's still frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
what I always say is like that same person who's complaining, they're not going to apologize when that, you know, thing that they're complaining about happens to them, you know? So I'm just like, you know what? If they, I know that if the situation were, you know, flipped, like they wouldn't care. They wouldn't apologize. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like everything you've done, you've gotten because you deserve it. So,
Yeah. It's like it's also out of your control.
yeah.
Like I don't know about you and like your personal journey, but I've never had like a super viral moment in the sense of like I've had like some like a couple videos pop off like super well and like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a couple hundred followers, which is a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
like in 4 years, that's happened maybe 3 times. So
Mm-hmm.
like I wouldn't say like I consistently go viral. I mean, I don't make like clickbaity type content because it doesn't like feel
Mm-hmm.
good. Like I feel like I could go more viral more often if I like made a certain type of video. But my growth has always been like very slow and steady, which is like sometimes really annoying. But then I'm just like, as long as I'm growing, I guess I'm doing something right. Is like what I try to tell myself. But
Mm-hmm.
it can be hard when you see like someone just started their account like 6 months ago and they're like twice your size. And that's when I'm like, okay, you know, all of these quotes like comparison is the thief of joy and like relax. You know?
Oh, trust me, I completely get it. Like, I was talking to like another mutual of mine, and she was like, "Oh my god, it took me 2 years to get 100K," and I'm like, I literally have 10K." Like, you know what I mean? Like
You're
the
like, oh,
difference, you know what I mean? Sometimes in people's mindset, for some people, I guess they just, and it's like crazy because reels are so hit and miss. Like, you never know what's gonna do super well and then what's not gonna do. Like a video that I feel like, oh my god, I love this video, I think it's great, doesn't do all that well, and then a video that I literally took me 5 minutes to make, like I just thought of on a whim, does super well. I just, I don't even know.
And it's like, it's also out of your control, even in the sense of like, I'm not someone who has the time to be creating like different content for TikTok and Instagram. Like, it's pretty much the same on both, give or take like a few things here and there, and like stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will post the same exact video most of the time. And lately, like on TikTok, all of those are at like 300 views. Whereas like Instagram, I'm consistently at like 2K and above. But like one time I had like a 200 video view on TikTok, and that same video is at like 30K on Instagram. And I'm like, it's the same video, like posted within the same hour. Like, what is going on? And I feel like TikTok like is just tanking for me right now, even though I technically have more followers there than anywhere else. But you never know. So like you can't get like married to one platform either.
Yeah, I definitely have not figured out TikTok. Even like for myself, I'm trying to get more active on there now because I think that publishers do like
they like
people.
It. It's annoying. I will say like every like publisher, because I've been working with a lot of them now, and like I have like a marketing background, there's this like weird like boomer mentality at the top where they're like, get the TikTokers, TikTokers go viral. And so like I'll even ask them, I'll be like, hey, right now like my videos are trending better on Instagram. Like, are you sure you would rather book me for an ad on TikTok? And they're like, yes, we want TikTok. We need TikTok. And I'm like, you shouldn't be stuck on that. But they like this idea of TikTok because of like the virality of it. But
but I have not cracked the code on going viral. Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't talk enough mess on my page. Like, I don't. Maybe I'm not as like controversial as I need to be to like go viral. I'm honestly not sure. But
I mean, like, if you feel like it's something you can do naturally, like, go for it. But like, if you're forcing it, who cares? You know, no, it's not for you.
Yeah. I mostly just post whatever the mood strikes, and I feel like it works for the people that I have following me, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, I think I have like 1,100 on TikTok, and I just talk about books, and that's pretty much it. At this point, that's my attitude. I'm like, if people want to follow me, great. If they don't, that's also great.
Well, that's how you like find your right community too. Like, I feel like sometimes like I see it on TikTok because like the algorithm's so different that like it'll serve up old content. So like sometimes I'm still having like people like videos from like 3 years ago, and I'm like, that I look at the videos and I'm like, the screen is blurry. Like, I don't know what I was wearing. Like, that was before my Invisalign. Like,
funny.
You know, like, I'm like, what are we doing here, guys?
What is this?
But like the content itself is still like my same personality. So like I don't really take any of it down because like who cares? But also like all of like the core of it is the same. I'm just slightly like, I don't know, more confident now, or like my equipment's better, and you know, little things like that. But it is kind of weird when that happens. I like had some like super cringe ones pop up sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't know. I am a little embarrassed, but also who cares? Like, it's also kind of embarrassing just like being a little reader on the internet anyways.
Honestly, I think about that often. I'm like, people in real life probably see me randomly pop up on their TikTok, and I'm like, if they could just ignore it, that would be great.
I don't like the like crossover into real life.
Right?
It's weird, especially like you said you primarily read romance, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a weird caveat with like being a romance reader where people are like, oh, cool, you read a lot, you have a book account, that's really awesome. Like, you must be really intellectual. And then the second you say like, oh, but I read a lot of romance, they're like, oh, now we look at you differently. Like, there is such a weird reaction to that. And it drives me crazy because like, I'm pretty sure they say like 80% of books sold are romance books.
Yeah. And I will always defend it. Like, listen, okay, you don't have, like, just because you read romance doesn't make you any less smart. There's beautiful contemporary romances. Like, there's so many different romance books. You know what I mean? And there's romances that will teach you things, life lessons, like so many different authors. Like, I think that's just people, their ignorance.
Meet a romance reader, and like I will tell you, like their empathy is off the charts. Like all of the romance readers are like the best friends I have ever made. Like they are like the most kindest people. They listen well. They have like naturally diverse friend groups that like have all sorts of jobs even, and they're different ages, and they're like, you know, just like I don't know, they're good people. I feel like the romance community is just like a good space.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. Okay.
Right.
And I do agree. I feel like romance readers have a lot of different backgrounds. Like, obviously, I have a whole master's degree, and like, it's so crazy because like a lot of people in my program read books, but like, none of them are reading romance, and I'm like the
Are they
only
all
one
like
that's like,
nonfiction readers too, primarily?
yes, I did have one friend, my closest friend in the program. She reads like fantasy mostly, in like young adult, so
Mhm.
that was like the closest to it. But you know, she understood me. You know, she understood where I was coming from. But the rest of the people in my program was just kind of like, I don't know about that. It's like that's fine, more for me.
I feel like there's like something that happens like the higher educated you get, and then also just like with men where it's like, do you not ever read for fun? Like it's okay, like it doesn't make you dumber.
Yes, I have to tell you, on one of we used to have these like coffee chats with our like dean of the program on
Mhm.
Zoom, and for like my fun fact, I said that I like to read romance, and two of like the administrators of the program like immediately were like, "Oh my god, like, have you read this book? Like, have you like?" We had like a whole conversation about romance books, and it
Mhm.
was like just me and like two other ladies, and our dean was like, "Well, I really love neurology." I'm like, "Yeah, that's boring, but thanks."
I appreciate your contribution to this
Yeah.
conversation.
It's not what we're talking about though, but great.
No, I think romance like has something for everyone, and I mean, even like no matter like what level of spice you want, like I don't know, romance is good at
Yeah,
all levels.
I agree. I agree. And I mean, I don't know. I just love and like, you know, just the thought of all the different stories, and like I don't necessarily think any romance is unrealistic. I think that any of the romance stories could possibly happen. It may not happen to me, but I
Mhm.
think that it could happen because
Mhm.
everything that authors are using or writing about in their stories, unless it's a fantasy, are actual real things. You know,
Mhm.
you could marry a billionaire. You know what I mean? There are billionaires in the world,
Mhm.
who could fly you out to different countries. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it literally could happen. Some people are living that reality, but
Mhm.
so that's what I mean. And obviously, I'm
Not
not just
us, but
right, like, not me, but it could happen. So it's nice to just like think about, read about. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Mhm. Me too. It's so fun. Yeah, I feel like all right, like last like two questions I'll come up with and we'll call it. But I'm wondering, so as someone who also like reads so much romance, do you have a point where you like hit a threshold of like you read like four romance in a row and you're like, okay, I need a little break or like a different genre, or do you like switch it up? Or could you just like read romance back to back forever and be fine?
Honestly, I think I could read romance back to back forever and be fine. However, I do have kind of like a cap when it comes to spice, because like I do prefer spice in books, but if it's like too much, like just a really smutty book, I'm like, okay, I need, give me some closed door. Like, let me
Mhm.
read a YA novel. Like, you know what I mean? Like something different. However, sometimes I do feel like I need to just like switch it up and
Mhm.
read just something else. Something, so I guess in a way I do kind of have a threshold, but it would really take me like 10, 15 books instead
Wow.
of
Yeah.
4 books.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I'm pretty much always reading romance, yeah.
For me, it's like four, and then I usually want to go for like a thriller, because it's
Oh,
like just so off. And like thrillers are something I can just like read quickly too. And so
Yeah.
I end up reading a lot of thrillers. I'm like, can someone just like murder someone, please? I just like need
I
it.
do. Yeah, I do love a good thriller. And that honestly is really good to kind of break up the monotony of romance books
Hmm.
because
They blend
sometimes
together sometimes if you read a book.
yes,
Yeah.
sometimes, it gets kind of like the same, especially when you like specific tropes.
Yeah.
It can get like I love second chance romance, and at one point I was just only reading second chance romances back to back, and I was like, I can't do this. If I
Mhm.
keep reading anymore, I'm gonna hate this trope forever. So like, I need something totally different.
It's weird that we have to figure out like all of these like little ticks that we have about like our reading styles because of like the rate that we consume books.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
I don't know, I almost like feel this guilt if I read too much romance and they start to like blend together. I like get guilt that like I'm doing that and I'm doing like a disservice to these authors because like it's not their fault that I chose to pick up like three similar books in a row, but like now I can't review it as accurately or talk about it as accurately because my brain is getting confused. So like I don't know, I try to switch it up. Definitely, yeah, with like thriller or mystery. I wish I read more fantasy. I think I I stopped reading fantasy for like 2 years because I worked a lot
Mm.
and then my brain just like couldn't handle it because I was like doing presentations to clients and like a really like high strung job constantly. So by the time I like clocked out for the day, which was already overtime, my brain was like, we aren't gonna do world building. That we don't have that in us anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a huge fantasy person. I would like to kind of expand my horizons. Like, I think like last year I tried to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I read the first one. I mean, it was good. Um, it wasn't like I wasn't obsessed with it to
Yeah.
like, continue on. But that was like the fantasy series that I read that had like the least amount of romance in it. That was like primarily like fantasy. So, but I know like there's so many people who love fantasy, like
Mhm.
they can like only read it. Like my one of my good friends, she reads fantasy primarily and she's always like Kendra, like I can't really read romance, but like I could read like a romantasy, and I'm like, I could read a romantasy, but I can't really read fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, but sometimes it's good to switch it up.
Yeah. It's hard though, because like even though I read so much romance, and maybe it's just because like you can switch up a lot of things with romance, but like there is a formula. So like you're saying it can get repetitive. I don't have like a lot of like Roman Empire romances, Like whereas with certain like fantasy or dystopian or something like of that nature, I have like these series that I'm like obsessed with, you know? And
Yeah,
so I don't know. And I mean, I think that's also just like cutting through all of the books because like there are those romance books and like certain authors, but I feel like I have to like read through a lot of them to like find those ones that like hit that specific high level mark for me.
yeah. I feel that way about like rereading books. Like
Mhm.
I used to say I never like reread books until I read the Kingmaker duology by Kennedy Ryan.
Mhm.
I can reread that series like if I'm looking for something to read, like if I'm in a slump, I can just reread it. I can also reread JL Seeger's. I don't know if you've read her.
Mhm.
Her first book in the New Haven series is called Restore Me.
Mhm.
So good. I can reread that. And then like you were saying, like characters or series that you just feel like obsessed with. I honestly feel that way about the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer Armentrout. Like
You were making
those,
me like want to repick it up because like I have like guilt for forgetting the entire book.
it's
I
I
really
just
should
I
because they're
don't know.
long, but like they're not hard to get through.
Yeah,
Like they
I
just look
just
scary.
they're very long, and it's like one of the first books that I read like when I was like trying to read real books again, and it was very slow getting through like obviously Blood and Ash, but just I don't know, I just got like so into it. I was like literally like binging it because I think I started reading it before I think the third book was just coming out, so I literally
Mhm.
binged like through the third book, like I was like consuming them. So I don't know, I guess that series holds a special place in my heart, and
Yeah.
I just love the characters, and yeah, I love them. So they're and I love Kingmaker series, Maxim and Linux. I love them a lot too.
My TBR is getting longer. We should do some sort of like everyone buddy reads mini book club type thing sometime. It'll be hard to get everyone orchestrated to do it, but I think it would be fun. Because I think, especially like the group we had today, we all really like romance too. So I feel like there could be something there.
I'm so down.
All right. Well, I think we've done what we've set out to do. We've read the books. We've talked the challenge. We've made friends, I think.
Yes.
So, but I am definitely down to do more again. And let me know if you have anything on your end that you ever need help with. I'm here to help.
Well, thank you.
You know what I mean, but like the words are not wording.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on tonight. It was really fun just to talk to you, get to know you, and get to see everyone in real life.
Real life, our internet lives. All right. Well, thank you, everyone watching live and everyone watching in the future. Make sure to hit like and let us know if you want more reading sprints in the comments, and subscribe, and then go to all of the creators in the description down below and follow all of their channels, their social media, and make sure to sign up for the Diverse Baseline newsletter. They have a newsletter that they work very hard on, and they also have a whole story graph, so you can join the reading challenge on there and support the hosts, because they do a lot of work for this challenge, weeding through all of the books, making sure that people are picking books that are truly by BIPOC authors and amplifying those books. And I mean, if it goes really well, hopefully we get them to do it again next year. But it's a lot of work, so we gotta support them where we can. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for hanging out, and we will see you somewhere else on the internet.